we're going to bring on our first guest. And we've been talking about doing the gospel global. We've been talking about all these different people and these missionaries that we, the Church Digital, interacting with. And so, hey, we're gonna hit the ground running at the global scale right now. I want to bring into the conversation. Oh, and I didn't do my tech right. Here, let me do that. And so hopefully when I push this button, it's going to work. You're going to love this. It's going to be great. So we're going to bring in Tyrell into the conversation. Oh my gosh, Tyrell, where'd my button go? There's my button. Tyrell, here you go. Boom. Hey.
Hey.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Doing well. What time is it in Tyrell's in Twitch in Czech? What time you're in Twitch? How's it feeling, Twitch? We'll talk about that one. But how's it? What time is it in Czechoslovakia?
Yeah, it's about 10 till 3 p.m. in the afternoon. So
how's your day so far?
What is that? 7 hours or 8? I can't remember with the time difference. But yeah, we're about 7 hours ahead of New York, I think. Yeah, things are going well over here. It's not too cold this week, but we have had our first snow over here, so. We're getting ready for the Eastern or Central European winter.
So you were on an open office with me, man, like a week or two ago. It was recent, and you were like walking around with your phone. And you, what city were you in that you were showing off?
Yeah, I was in Prague. I've lived in Prague before. That's the capital of the Czech Republic. Right now, I'm actually over near the Polish border, near where Poland and Slovakia meet. That's where my wife's family is from, and so that's where I'm kind of stationed. But I was in Prague when you were talking to me. Christmas markets hadn't gone up, but yeah.
So cool. Well, hey, listen, tell me right now. By the way, I will probably call him Trizzle at some point in the broadcast. A lot of people have weird names in digital metaverse space, and so we just roll with it. I don't question it. People, I'm Deerfedge, and people for years are like, "What's Deerfedge mean? Like, what language is that?" Oh, it's Jeff Reed backwards, and it's like light bulbs just go off. They had no. So anyway, it's not like a deer who's doing something. It's just my name backwards, Jeff Reed. But anyway, Trizzle, tell us a little bit about your ministry. What do you do?
Yeah, so I came over to the Czech Republic originally doing short-term missions with my youth group. And so we were doing English camps at that time. That was a big draw for churches to do evangelistic English camps over here. And after I had graduated, I went to school for media, for film, and was planning to go to Hollywood. But then I got recruited by some of the missionaries that I had been working with in the English camps. And they're like, "You've been here like 10 times. Why are you not living here?" I said, "I don't have anything to do here. Long term, that's not my call." And they said, "Well, what do you do back home?" And I said, "I do media." And they're like, "Oh, we've been looking for you. We need you." And so I came out in 2015 to start doing media. And one of my main things was doing online ministry, trying to develop a television show for kind of Web 2.0 era. And that never really took off, but especially during COVID and as I was watching other gaming ministry come up, I was just recognizing there was a huge hole in the types of people that we were reaching, especially guys. It's really difficult to reach the guys over here. I think that's kind of a universal church thing right now. I was just recognizing how one of our sports ministries started getting into e-gaming space, and there was just an untapped potential in churches in mobilizing the young men and specifically people that were in gaming and online spaces to do ministry themselves rather than just through the church itself and being a witness in their schools. So that's what I'm focusing on right now, is building communities and mobilizing people in the local church here into their online communities that they're already a part of to witness and share the gospel. I'm also working on trying to develop and using my media skill to develop new ways of evangelizing through experiences, especially in VR. So building out VR spaces and storytelling through those technologies.
Yeah. Totally. I would love to get into the VR stuff. We don't talk enough VR, you and I. We hit the other topics a lot. I always forget that's a thing with you. I love that. Hey, so you're American. You're doing this work in Czech. You live in Czech. What's the benefit for you living in Czech? Contextualization, What's the difference in doing things over there, reaching a Czech person as opposed to an American?
One of the big things is the language, though English, especially in the gaming and online space, tends to be pretty universal. The people that are in that space tend to be more prolific in English. I think the biggest thing is time zone. I've dealt with people, like you were saying, from Africa and Asia in different online interactions, but just because of the time zone, people are still sometimes online at the same time if you're in the same time zone. So being in this time zone is incredibly important. And I think there's still, while we're transitioning into digital spaces, there's still a cultural need for mobilization of the people that are actually based here. And so being able to work in the churches and helping give a vision for this type of ministry to people that are in the pews in the churches over here, that's necessary to be over here and be in a relationship in that way, even though I can do a lot online. So Simon, one of the other people connected with Church.digital that I've been working with out of Germany, he can tell you Europe is the least evangelized continent in the world right now, other than maybe Antarctica. So the number of people even on the street and being based here and having those conversations, there's a crossover there between the physical and connecting with people in physical space, and then transferring that relationship into the online spaces as well, and vice versa. So being able to do a physical meetup is still, I think, important, even though it's not necessary and sometimes can't happen. It's still, I think, a valuable aspect of having that opportunity, if possible, even if it's a little bit of travel.
Yeah, it's so good. Simon's going to be on a little later today. Probably right now, the most organized of our outposts and global networks is Europe. And it's because it's in a largely post-Christian, post-church environment over there. I was just I don't know who I was talking to about this yesterday, but 2023 Christmas Eve in Great Britain, more people spent time in a pub than they did in a church, and so the relativity, the relatableness of the churches, the buildings especially, are gone. And so what we're seeing of being effective are people, like the work that Trizzle's doing here, thinking outside of the box and doing. Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever, but a lot of our models and modes that can change. And one of the things that I love, especially with our VR crowd, the people that are doing that work, honestly, are probably the ones that are the most biblical and cling to, okay, let's really look at what the Bible calls, what God calls the church to be, Acts 2, Acts 8, Acts 16, and what does that ecclesiology look like in digital, in virtual reality, on social media? How can we use these platforms to be a church? Yeah, okay, baptism might look a little weird, communion's going to be different, but there's an incredible opportunity to engage with people that aren't going to church buildings. And so, Trizzle, you got to be pumping into that in Czech, right? Like, how are you interacting with people?
Yeah, you mean on these types of ecclesiology type issues?
Just like the people you're engaging with, missiology, who are you connecting with? Are they people that are not going to buildings? Are they what's the spiritual temperature of the conversations you're having over there? Let me say it that way.
Yeah, well, the church itself, Czech itself is one of the most atheistic countries in the world. So that's not agnostic. That's not we believe in God. It's like we don't believe in anything, straight atheism. So there is a lot of hesitancy, but I would say that right now we're seeing a huge move into New Age. There's a lot of other spiritual influences because we're about a generation out from the fall of the Berlin Wall. So the openness, so people are searching for spiritual things, and it's a matter of trying to get in front of them and talk to them. So there is more openness, but it is much more of a universalism, buffet type of mentality for a lot of people. So being able to present the gospel in a way that they can actually understand from their perspective, especially in the younger generation too, I think what we're seeing in the church is, and in society as a whole, is they have completely different frameworks for the nature of reality than we do. Their mental frameworks are completely different. They are open to the ideas of multiverses and multiple realities. And especially with their gaming background or VR background, they just have different ways of viewing the world that I think a lot of the people in our traditional church are just not used to. And it's easier to avoid that conversation. But I think it opens a lot of opportunities to figure out how to communicate the gospel, even in a unique way, to those that have been in the church for a long time, using these new ways of understanding how reality can be perceived. Even not the gospel is different, but just figuring out how to communicate that. And from as a missionary, that's exactly what we do. We go out of our own culture into another culture, figure out how to utilize the kingdom values and the kingdom mindsets that are already embedded in the culture. We're all made in the image of God, so we naturally have aspects of kingdom culture and a God mindset embedded in us. It's just been corrupted, and it's us trying to figure out how to communicate that in a way that that culture can understand. And it's the same thing online with this new generation. But I think they're very open. It's just a matter, but they're also very they think a lot, and they're very suspicious, and they need it explained in a way that they can understand. It takes a while to actually get to the point with them sometimes, even though they're very open to the discussion.
I love that. You're engaging with them digitally. You're creating, like, are you creating virtual reality in environments? How's some of that going on the metaverse space?
That's newer for me. Like, I'm still learning. Unreal Engine is the one that I've kind of landed on that I'm trying to learn right now to be able to delve into that space. I think we're still very early, though. Obviously, people like VR Church, they're already building. They've got whole teams that are building environments out. So I'm still on the early stage of getting that skill set and being able to delve into that. I've been focusing a lot more on trying to help understand the nature of the ecclesiology and working through these with the traditional church in my environments. But the other thing too is just the nerd culture opens up so many doors to connect with people in the tech. So when I'm meeting somebody, especially a guy, and I'm able to, as a gamer, I'm able to be like, so what are you playing? Like, what game are you playing? That already is an opening of conversation, and mutual affinity to start a conversation. And if I know that game or I know that space, then it gives me a language to start talking and even pull biblical lessons out from that and start that conversation. But it's a much warmer conversation. One of my favorite conversations I was having with a young kid, I think Gen Alpha, and I started trying to talk to him. It was at a church event, and he had nothing. He didn't want to have anything to do with me. And then I saw he was playing Minecraft, or no, it wasn't Minecraft. It was Roblox. And I said, "Oh, yeah, I own stock in that company." And he just like turned around, and I was like, the coolest guy. He's like, "What? You own part of this company?" I don't think he understood what a stock was, but like, it was just like this immediate like street cred, to start that conversation, be able to just relate to him and where he was at and what he was interested in.
So cool. It's just so much right there. We'll have on Pastor Coco from VR MMO Church in a little bit, and she's doing a church in Final Fantasy. And so that's a video game. That's a video game. My 16-year-old daughter is obsessed with Final Fantasy, and so there's cultures wrapped up into this, and that's a little bit of the to pull that thread. It's a little bit of the culture that's shining through in this digital and metaverse, where the missionaries, like the stuff that Trizzle's doing, is engaging into that culture, recognizing that virtual reality, there's missional opportunities. There's opportunities to share with Jesus. In my opinion, it's one of the greatest untapped mission fields today. The metaverse is, and it's expanding on a regular basis. But even beyond the missional opportunities, the opportunities to put in a church and engage in that. We talk a lot about how every community deserves a church. And including digital and metaverse ones, virtual ones. And so, man, you're doing a great job. I know you've got some partnerships. How are you funded? Remind me of that.
Yeah, I'm working under an organization called Global 180 that's out of America, out of Arizona, and they're kind of my umbrella organization that I'm working under. And then my church back home, my sending church, is very structured with their missions. They're very mature in the way that they manage that. So I'm under their leadership from a church perspective as well, from a sending church perspective. Yeah.
Very cool. That's actually one of the few positive relationships. It's rare. I wanted to draw attention to that because I know Trizzle's the positive. He does have a church that's supporting and in a network that's supporting financially behind it. I would probably say 90 to 95% of the people that we work with do not. They don't have the funding and the organizational structure in place, and so, Trizzle, that you're able to do what you're doing and to be the light where you are on the other side of the planet from us, and at the same time be funded through that. What's just maybe to wrap up here a little bit. You've been active with the Church Digital less than 6 months. Like you're relatively
Yeah,
newcomer, right?
I feel like I've been lurking because when COVID hit and I started getting the bigger vision for this type of ministry, I started looking. I was like, I always feel like we need to partner with other people. So I wanted to not just start off my own, but trying to figure out who else is already doing stuff in the space. And I found you and another organization called Faith Tech
Mm-hmm.
that was kind of doing that. So I was lurking for quite a while, and then I finally was online at um, one of your office hours. And so I've been reading the articles and watching the live streams and watching the different things. But yeah, getting involved directly and starting to talk to you was about 6 months ago.
Yeah, and that's a lot of that's the paramount kind of example where, and I remember getting the text or an email from you. It's like, hey, my digital pastor is New Mexico or Arizona. It's one of those, right?
Arizona. Yeah.
Yeah, my the digital pastor at the church that I'm with in Arizona said that I should text. It was a text because you had my cell phone number. I was like, who's this guy Trizzle that's texting me right now? Which is it's fine. A lot of
You
people
put it
text
out
me.
on the live stream.
I do. I give that away. It's not a problem at all. But hey, it's 484-324-8724. You're welcome. Plus one in there. It's great. Actually, my text has been blowing up today, but that's a whole other conversation. How is the Church Digital helping you?
I think this type of stuff, having these conversations, I'm also a part of the recently launched Equipping Digital Missionaries cohort
Mm-hmm.
for Europe. So I'm in that cohort with Simon and several other people doing digital ministry, but in physically based in Europe as far as their people group focus or their geographic location. That's been really helpful just to think through different ideas as well as make connections with other people that are actually in this physical space that I would be able to meet up with and partner with for stuff that we're doing here. So and community is extremely important. So having a group of people that are thinking the same way, that are in good faith, working through the same issues theologically or facing the same challenges within the structure of the traditional church is extremely valuable. We can't do this alone. We're meant to be in community. And I believe that community can happen in digital space just as much as it can happen in physical space. So this provides the beacon for those people to actually gather around that are working in this for the kingdom.
Beautiful. Yeah, and the Simon's cohort, Equipping Digital Missionaries, that's part of the cohort that's under the Church Digital. And to be honest, Tariq, or not Tariq, I'm sorry, I was texting with Tariq, but Trizzle, you're when that's done, like we want to see that community that's through EDM, Equipping Digital Missionaries, create a network within Europe, and we want to build on that. And like there's even Simon's more Western Europe and Germany, and then there's Eastern Europe opportunities and differences with that. And we've got friends in Albania and other countries that are interested in starting a network as well. And so there's going to be a lot more work that's going to happen in the Europe area with the Church Digital, but we're really just getting started. Hey, I'm going to ask 2 questions. You're the first interview of 30, And I kind of took my time. I was like, oh, no rush, no rush, no rush. And then I'm like, oh, crap, 20 minutes is up. I'm supposed to go on to the next one, and I haven't asked the 2 questions I need to. We're asking all the missionaries, every interview this today, these 2 questions. No, so it's just machine gun.
Mm-hmm.
Let's hammer through it. Can the church exist digitally?
I definitely think that the church can exist digitally, and I think depending on where and what the political situation is, I think it's going to have to in certain circumstances. I think it's important we build this out because, as we saw during COVID, there might be times when we can't actually physically meet, and having a robust way of meeting in a digital space, I think that that's important, and I think it's possible, and I think it's going to be necessary going forward.
Beautiful. Can missions, follow up to that, can missions be digital?
I definitely think out of all the aspects of the church, I think missions is actually one of the biggest things that can happen digitally. It's meant to be going and taking the gospel where the gospel isn't to people groups that haven't heard it or haven't heard it in a way they can understand. And digital people groups is exactly that, fits that to a T. So yes, it definitely can happen digitally.
Awesome. Hey, well, Trizzle, thanks for coming around and being with us today. Man, you're welcome to stick around. We've got more interviews coming up. Are you able to stick around, or you have to go?
I got to run right now, but I can jump back on. We have our cohort later today in a couple hours, so I'll have to jump out for that. But I'll be in and out through.
Sounds good.
Midnight.
Say hey to Simon and the crew for me, and we'll catch up with you later.
Will do. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Trizzle.